Welcome to the League of Women Voters of Wake County Virtual Candidate Forum for the Raleigh Mayor. My name is Cheryl Tung, and I am a member of the League of Women Voters of Wake County. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering voters and defending democracy. We encourage informed and active participation in government, help citizens increase their understanding of major public policy issues, and work to influence public policy through education and advocacy. As a nonpartisan organization, the League of Women Voters does not endorse or oppose candidates and is proud to continue our long history of hosting candidate forums. The views, opinions, and content expressed in this presentation do not necessarily reflect the views or policies of the League of Women Voters. All candidates who filed to run for the Raleigh mayor election are invited to participate in our candidate forum. Outreach included emails, phone calls, as well as certified letters inviting candidates to respond and provide citizens an opportunity to learn about their views. Thank you to the candidates who are with us today. Raleigh has a council manager form of government. In the council manager form of government, the people elect the council and the mayor. The city council serves as a legislative body and appoints a city manager to oversee day-to-day operations. The city manager proposes the operating budget, implements the city council policy and initiatives. Mayors are elected by the people. The mayor is a regular voting member of the city council. The current fiscal year 2025 budget for Raleigh is $1.43 billion, an 11.8% increase over fiscal year 2024. The budget covers strategic plan actions. The general fund reflects a 13.1% increase to $732.2 million, covering the city's workforce, programs for vulnerable populations, and addresses growth and inflation. Other items this year are an alternative response program, affordable housing, and Dix Park operational cost. The mayor is elected citywide and represents all and serves all city residents. Today, we welcome candidates for Raleigh Mayor Janet Cowell, Paul Fitz, Eugene Myrick, Terrence Ruth, and James Shaughnessy. The Raleigh Mayor covers the entire city of Raleigh, and all candidates live in Raleigh. Welcome, Janet, Paul, Eugene, Terrence, and James. Thank you for joining us today. We will ask every candidate for mayor the same questions. The questions will cover a range of issues relevant to the scope of the mayor's duties. The candidates are listed in alphabetical order by the last name. The opening statements will be answered by the first person, first speaker. In order to allow each candidate to speak, question 1 will be answered by question 2, and so on. The closing statement will be addressed by the first person first. Before we begin, I'd like to verify with the candidates they have not received the questions in advance. And can you all verbally confirm that?
Yes.
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 Okay. Thank you. You now have 1 minute for an opening statement. Janet Cowell, please go ahead.
Hi, well, thank you for the League of Women Voters for all the work you do in the community and hosting this forum. I am Janet Cowell. I am a candidate for mayor. I know many of you from past service, have been on the city council previously, also in the state senate, representing Raleigh, Cary, and Morrisville, and then a state treasurer statewide managing the pension and health plan. More recently, I have been the CEO of Dix Park, and I appreciate that the photo on your cover shot is from Dix Park, looking at this downtown skyline. I want to run for mayor because I can see the challenges that more recent growth, the sort of inequality of the city that's causing issues, and I want to make Raleigh a city that can work for everyone. And I look forward to talking about the important issues of housing, public safety, green spaces, and others on this forum. Thank you.
Great music.
Thank you, Janet. Paul Fitz, it is now your turn to speak, and you may start. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for having us this morning. We've done several forums together. All of us have unique ideas and perspectives. The reason why I'm running for city council as a local guy, born in the old Rex Hospital, grew up here in Wake County, lifelong Wake County resident. And I'm a mortgage lender. I'm a person who's actually put people in homes for the last 25 years of my career. So I've been grateful, and I've been appreciative of the business, but Raleigh has deficiencies. Raleigh has not been prepared for the influx of people that we have in the city now. We are underprepared not only in housing, we're underprepared in policing, we're underprepared in several areas, including infrastructure, including future water usage. We have a lot of challenges that face us now, and we have a city council that's literally 20 years behind. And it's time to put them on a good footing and a good direction. And I think as a person who's been a mortgage lender, thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, Eugene Myrick, it is your turn, and you may start.
Good morning. My name is Eugene Myrick. I came to Raleigh in 1990 to attend Shaw University. I've worked in the Wake County public school system. I've also taught special education in the New York City public school system. I've seen the changes from 1990 till now. I just would have never imagined that we would have mini skid rows off of every exit in the highway. I would never imagine that Raleigh would be facing so much unaffordability. So one of the reasons why I jumped into this race is that I see the inequality that has happened over the years, and we seem to be headed on that trajectory where a lot of folks are being left out, especially what I call legacy residents of Raleigh. I realize that the city is growing and want to bring in more people, but we cannot forget the people that have made Raleigh one of the best places to live. It is one of the best places to live, and it's because of quality of life. And we have to continue that quality of life for everyone, our teachers, our city workers.
Thank you, Eugene. And Terrence Ruth, it is now your turn. You may start.
Yes, I want to just say thank you again to the League of Women Voters. I have several mentors that's a part of your organization, and I just appreciate the work that you do, both out front and behind the scenes in terms of policy and advocacy. I bring a PhD in policy, public affairs. I lecture on policy at NC State University. I've led a national, state, and local organization. I'm running for mayor because our city stands at a critical crossroads, and as we grow, we must ensure that growth is benefiting everyone and not just a select few. And Raleigh has a rich history, vibrant communities, immense potential. But in order for us to reach that, people have to feel secure about their city. And right now, they don't feel as secure about the future and the current leadership as they once did. And so under my leadership, I plan to create a city that is just, equitable, and inclusive. True for Raleigh for mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Terrence. Okay, James Shaughnessy, it is your turn to speak. You may go ahead.
Thank you again for inviting me and having us all here this morning. One of my favorite supporters is actually a member of the League of Women Voters, so I really appreciate all the work you guys do and bringing education to voting issues. My name is James Shaughnessy. I was born and raised right here in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I'm running because this is my home and my city, and I really care about it in such a big way, and I think I have a lot to give to service. As Raleigh grows, we are, like Terrence said, we are at a big crossroads, and I want to be a cornerstone of those crossroads to make sure that we are building in a productive way to make sure that the younger generation can also benefit from the growth, as well as the older generations that have been here previously that have already been established. Making sure that we're focusing on issues like housing and mental health and building up our public transit system is key issues for me to make sure that there is enough opportunity for everyone up and down in each class to make sure that there is mobility for everybody.
Thank you, James.
Is that Gone with the Wind?
We will now move to the question part of the forum. You will have 1 minute each to answer each question. The city of Raleigh has a council manager form of government where the mayor has a decreased role in daily operations. If elected, how would you exhibit leadership and what will be your priorities? Paul, you have 1 minute to answer the first question. Go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, as a mortgage lender, I also owned a restaurant at the same time, and my philosophy is lead by example. If you saw me in the restaurant, I was bussing tables, washing dishes, I was tending bar. I wasn't somebody to sit and point. And I think that's the biggest problem we've had in the city of Raleigh. We haven't had a lead by example mentality. My biggest issue still is going to be policing. Right now, city of Raleigh, Raleigh citizens feel unsafe. They don't like to go downtown because they feel unsafe. They see a lot of homeless encampments everywhere because they don't feel safe. The first thing I want to implement as the mayor is I want to bring in about 400 more police officers to this city. And I want to broaden our tax base by increasing our housing to do so. And I actually have a plan to do these. These are on my website at fitsforraleigh.com. So if you want to read how these can be done, it can be done efficiently, effectively, and at low cost to the taxpayers.
Thank you, Paul. Eugene, you now have 1 minute to answer
I'm
the
sorry.
first question.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. The city of Raleigh has a council manager form of government where the mayor has a decreased role in daily operations. If elected, how would you exhibit leadership and what will be your priorities? Eugene,
So
go ahead.
I would want to expand the city council to 10 city council members plus a mayor. That would give you an odd number. And the reason for expanding the city council, and I would want each council member to have an actual district to be accountable for the citizens of Raleigh. And one of my top priorities is affordable housing based off an individual's income. I call it neighborhood median income. Right now, we're basing our off area median income, 30% of the area median income. So we're actually including the income of folks that don't actually live in Raleigh. And this is detrimental to some of our city workers and a lot of our residents here in the city. So affordable housing, as well as increasing the mental health. I worked in Dix when it was the hospital, and I worked with students that were residents of Dorothea Dix Hospital. So there's a lot of folks that's being left out from the mental health community, especially a lot of children as well. So affordable housing and focusing on mental health, and definitely expanding the city council.
Thank you, Eugene. Terrence, you now have 1 minute to answer the first question. Go ahead.
Yes, with a desire to have residents feel more secure. Number one, I will prioritize a city staff working conditions audit to retain just what's the conditions staff is working under, to see what can we do to retain and recruit talent so we could save costs in that area. The second thing is schedule a town hall in each district of the city to hear from residents, their concerns, their hopes for the future of the city. And the last thing is to create a Wake County wide affordable housing coalition with each municipality so that we can maximize our resources together.
Thank you, Terrence. James, you now have 1 minute to answer the first question. You can go ahead.
Being a city manager and mayor system, having a weak mayor system, it offers a unique set of challenges that, I believe that gives a great deal of leadership upon the mayor. First of all, communication is probably the biggest thing that the mayor is responsible for, making sure that they are communicating with the city manager and all the rest of the councilors. The big priorities that I would like to do is see what operational inefficiencies are within the system right now to make sure that we are giving ample time for all the counselors to make sure that they can do the job that we are electing them to do. We see that there's inefficiencies in pushing up the budget because the counselors don't have enough time in order to make changes that they would like to see, and it doesn't offer the best solution for the budget each year. So focusing on making sure we have strong communication and a leader that will be going through all of the risky parts of the job at every level for every city worker is something that I'm deeply enthusiastic about and want to lead with.
Thank you, James. Janet, you now have 1 minute to answer the first question, and you can go ahead.
Right. For a city manager form of government, the mayor has very little direct control. So this is really a job about influence and relationship. The first relationship is the counselors. You need 5 votes to get anything passed. So I've been spending time getting to know everybody running, including my colleagues here. to make sure you have a good working relationship, understand their priorities, and can work congenially, collaboratively as a council. The relationship with the city manager is incredibly important, and having respect for staff as the operations and understanding the role of council as a policy-making and budgetary body. The other is the relationships with other forms of government, Wake County, nonprofits, the business community, the state. A lot of this is about, convening, influencing, building those relationships so you can get things done for the people of Raleigh.
Thank you, Janet. We're going to move on to the second question. We know that affordable housing has been an issue for many years. How would you tackle the ongoing issue of housing affordability in Raleigh? Eugene, you have 1 minute to answer the second question.
So the city is currently subsidizing unaffordability, and the city allows developers to come before them and say that the city cannot tell developers what to do, but you can always say no. You don't have to always cave to what a developer wants you to do as a city. There's plenty of city-owned land throughout Raleigh, and we need to start utilizing that land. And the city may have to get into the business of housing its citizens. There's no other way. There's no way to get around it. And this way we can do income-based housing. I call it 100% affordability. Neighborhood median income. It has to be based off an individual's income and not somebody else's income. This will help our city workers. This will help all of the Raleigh citizens, where you don't have to work in Raleigh and live in the outskirts. So there are folks coming from Henderson and Zebulon and as far as Wilson, maybe even further, just to work inside the city of Raleigh.
Thank you, Eugene. Terrence, you now have 1 minute to answer the second question.
Yes, the first thing is to prioritize land acquisition, because we can't demand that developers build affordable units, but we can control affordability if we own the land. Also make sure that we're partnering with municipalities, because what the decisions we make in Raleigh ultimately impacts the municipalities around us. And so what does it mean to have a regional approach and a county approach around affordable housing strategy? The second one is to make sure that we're preserving existing affordable units. We're losing more affordable units than we're placing back on the market. And the very last thing is that to make sure that we're establishing the right partnerships with nonprofits, for-profits, and incentivizing them to build affordable units. Right now, because of the costs, they're not incentivized to build affordable housing. So what can the city do to make sure that we maximize production to meet the pace of the market?
Thank you, Terrence. James, you now have 1 minute to answer the second question. Go ahead.
Well, with any basic rules of economics, in order to increase or decrease the pricing to make it more affordable, you have to increase supply. And Raleigh is facing a major supply issue. In order for us to push this forward, what we need to do is have a long conversation with all of the partners at play, including residents, the policymakers, the people who write the building code, and the developers, to make sure that everyone's on the same page in order to tackle affordability. This is not necessarily the greatest approach to encourage, great collaboration, but also it is a great way for make sure that we all have the same priorities. Increasing the supply is one of the most important things that we need to do, and that starts with having a conversation with everybody at the table.
Thank you, James. Janet, you now have 1 minute to answer the second question.
Yep. One of the books I've been reading is called The Affordable City by Shane Phillips, and he talks about the 3 S's of affordability: supply, subsidy, stability. Supply, the past councils have done a good job of trying to diversify and deregulate some of the zoning to allow more housing and more housing choice. This is largely a private sector supplied. They have also passed an affordable housing bond for subsidy, but we know that we need additional subsidies. One tool I'd like to use is a tax increment finance tool that has been used in Durham and Charlotte to provide additional revenues for subsidies. More information in my questionnaire on that one. And then finally on stability, assisting homeowners who've been there for a long time with things like weatherization programs, home repair programs, scaling those in a way that we're serving thousands of people, not just dozens, to protect the stability of long-term residents.
Thank you, Janet. Paul, you now have 1 minute to answer the second question. Go ahead.
So as a mortgage lender, I'll tell you, I've housed a lot of people, but again, it comes back to supply and demand, and Raleigh is completely undersupplied. But the state of North Carolina is one of the biggest land barons in the city of Raleigh. The state owns 161 properties, and those properties are underpurposed and they're underutilized, and they don't pay any property taxes. So when you look at the fact that the state has a $6 to $7 billion rainy day surplus, I think they should start relinquishing property so we can utilize them properly. Roy Cooper had a big miss recently when he decommissioned 3 prisons around the state over the last 5 years, but he left 2 prisons in the most expensive real estate in the entire state, where we could be collecting property taxes from homeowners. So I'd like to take Central Prison, Women's Prison, and where I was born, Old Rex. I would like to completely demolish the properties that are on there and try to develop those properties at no land acquisition cost to a developer to bring down the cost of housing.
Thank you, Paul. We'll now move on to the third question. What role would you, as mayor of City of Raleigh, want to play as the PNC renovation and expansion moves into the next stage of development? Terrence, you have 1 minute to answer the third question. Go ahead.
Yes, the mayor is probably the most significant cheerleader for the city. And this is a significant investment. One, because we did a really good job as a city showing that we can handle the largest showing for the NHL outdoor event. We were so successful in that event that I think we are becoming more of an attraction for other major sports industries. Also, it will draw some energy, economic energy to that part of the city versus downtown, versus Dick Park, versus North Hills, versus Southeast Raleigh and other areas. It will bring some additional economic energy there. But also people want to live close to entertainment. And so it gives a chance for the city to really reimagine that space with residents and with those who are recreating that space.
Thank you, Terrence. James, you have 1 minute to answer the third question.
As someone who likes to go to hockey games, I'm really excited about this project. And as mayor, I'd really like to, extend a firm line of communication between all the partners. That's a really big thing about my campaign, is making sure that we all sit down around a table and talk about what our priorities are. This one priority of mine is making sure that it is accessible and accessible to a lot of people. I know that Hurricanes tickets aren't as expensive as they need to be, because there's a lot of third-party apps that you can buy tickets for $35. But are we connected to the public transit system in a way that is accessible to people, for everybody? I would like to bring that priority up to discussion with the new Lenovo Center, and make sure that people who might not have a means to have a car also have means to get transportation to also enjoy the entertainment that our city has to provide. This is not just for the Lenovo Center, but all around for the state fairgrounds or downtown and things like that nature, to restructure our public transit to make sure that it's accessible to everybody.
Thank you, James. Janet, you have 1 minute to answer the third question.
Well, I agree that the now Lenovo Center renovation and development into a mixed-use center is super exciting. The intercity trip this year was to Atlanta, and we saw some of the amazing vibrancy as they've diversified the area around their arena. As mayor, really working with all the relationships, Tom Dundon, the head of the Hurricanes, Lenovo, the sponsor, right, all the architects, to keep this project moving. If there are snags, if there are obstacles, how do you negotiate and shepherd this so that it is all happening? Getting additional grants or funding. I know in Atlanta, they had $150 million from a federal grant for additional infrastructure. So working on those kinds of resources as well to make this project super exciting and successful for the city.
Thank you, Janet. Paul, you now have 1 minute to answer the third question. Go ahead.
So it's been pretty interesting to see it transform and take place. And I've been speaking to people on the board there, like Stacy Miller or Bill Owens. I'm excited for what's happening out that way. But I'm going to be honest with you. The city of Raleigh has basically neglected its partnership with the NC State University. It's the largest university in this area. People live here in Raleigh because of the university. They came here, they experienced it, and they want to be here. But if you look at Durham, if you look at Chapel Hill, they build their economy around UNC or Duke. We don't even do that. We don't even attempt to do that. If you saw this past season, NC State going to the Final Four in the men's and women's side was exciting for this town. If we build that excitement, if we expand on that partnership, it is an economic boon that this city will have. And we haven't had the leadership, and I haven't even seen the desire from the council to even approach that. Sure, they want to help put money in the Lenovo Center, but they're still not expounding on the partnership of our largest university.
Thank you, Paul. Eugene, you now have 1 minute to answer the third question. Go ahead.
Thank you. And I can appreciate the excitement of the Lenovo Center, but once again, you're going to need folks to work the concession stands. You're going to need folks to work the parking lots. And are we going to become a city where folks will just come to work here and have to live somewhere else? In order to get those entertainment events off without a hitch, you're going to need employees. So I kind of agree with what James was saying. We have to work on the traffic issue. We have to make sure folks can actually be able to get there without the need of a car. I know we're trying to compete with Charlotte and we're trying to compete with Atlanta. And though Atlanta is booming, Atlanta also has a 6-lane highway. And there are some days when you can get out and walk faster than the transportation will allow you to move. So we have to be smart about the way we increase the capacity for some of our sports arenas, but we also have to make sure that the folks that work there can also live in the city of Raleigh.
Thank you, Eugene. Okay, we're now going to move on to the fourth and final question. Are you supportive of the return of CACs, Community Advisory Councils, and what role do you think they should have, if any, in city government? James, you have 1 minute to answer the fourth question.
I am extremely excited that CACs are coming back, and I really hope that they come back to what they were before. With the new community engagement department, I feel like that is a really good task for them to start, to make sure that they are supportive and helping rebuild the CACs to what they used to be. And for their role in city government, it's a lot of communication concerns to make sure that residents have a space where they can issue their comments or questions and concerns in a space that isn't necessarily a city council meeting, so that they can have a better dialogue than they might normally have with the city government. Also, bringing up concerns from the local neighborhoods to the city government, to making sure that it is a very specific need-based priorities. So if there's a neighborhood that has, oh, we need a stop sign here, they can bring that up to us directly through a communication portal rather than a single resident doing that themselves.
Thank you, James. Janet, you now have 1 minute to answer the fourth question. Go ahead.
Yeah, supportive of CACs, and of course this council has voted to reinstate them. I think in the first 90 days of this next mayor and council, we'll actually be enacting what that looks like. And that would include, for me, the technology assistance for these groups, space at community centers across the city, and allowing the votes and input of this not only to go to planning commission and council, so that we know what citizens are thinking, but also other groups like the police advisory. I'd like to see expanded number of topics. They already address issues of public safety and planning, but let's plug them into the whole comprehensive plan that's kicking off for the next round of a new 15-year plan for the city, and just that find other ways with technology support to embrace the voice of citizens.
Thank you, Janet. Paul, you now have 1 minute to answer the fourth question.
Yeah, I'm a little apprehensive on the technology side. If you haven't seen a lot of this lately, I'll just explain it. There's been a lot of cyber hacking in cities everywhere. And when you give general access to citizens, it becomes a security risk. I'm a little apprehensive for that. But as far as CACs and people bringing in their concerns or their having their engagement, I think it's paramount for everybody to reach out to citizens in this city. And I think I'm excited about having the CACs and having their input. I think it's important for all of us to listen and keep our ear to the ground.
Thank you, Paul. Eugene, you now have 1 minute to answer the fourth question. Go ahead.
I'm extremely excited that the CACs are coming back, and I think they should come back with the same voting power in regards to rezoning cases as they had in the past. I think they were eliminated so that certain neighborhoods were just steamrolled without the CAC at least having a voice. I mean, it's still an advisory group, but we need that voice to be able to be presented to city council. So I'm hoping that it comes back with the same type of authority like the Planning Commission, the Raleigh Historic Commission. They, you know, it's a recommendation to the city council, but I believe that's one element that's being taken out, the option to have a say on rezoning cases in the neighborhood. And I think they have to come back with the same authority they had in the past, which includes the authority to vote on rezoning cases that are taking place in their neighborhood.
Thank you, Eugene. Terrence, you now have 1 minute to answer the fourth question. Go ahead.
Yes, I think that our city is screaming for CACs to return. We have two major lawsuits against the city from communities to the city. And one, the community won, and the second one is around the character of the community. And so I think some of this could have been at least engaged directly with the council prior to a lawsuit if we had healthy CACs. One, I would love for them to have input on zoning, but also I think we can maximize engagement. I think we can be a city that's dynamic. One thing that's amazing about our city is that residents want to be a part. They want to be engaged. So incentivize CACs to be representative of their district so that at that point they can then vote on zoning power. So let's make them diverse, let's make them creative, let's make them dynamic.
Thank you, Terrence. Now we're going to move on to the closing statements. Thank you to the candidates for coming today to participate in our virtual candidate forum. We recognize that running and serving in elected office is a considerable commitment of time and energy and often sacrificed opportunities. The League, along with the residents of Wake County, is grateful that we have so many capable fellow citizens who are willing to step forward to serve the important duties as a member of the Raleigh Mayor and Council. You now have 1 minute each to make closing statements. Janet, you'll have 1 minute for closing statements and you can go ahead.
Sure. So again, thank you for having this forum. Thank you for trying to find out more about the Raleigh mayor's race and all the candidates. I would direct you to the questionnaire on the site. Also would just let you know I've been endorsed by the Wake County Democratic Party, by the Raleigh Wake Citizens Association, police, firefighters, NC Equality. So I've listed a lot of the endorsements. There are additional questionnaires on different sites for the Democratic Party, Livable Raleigh, with a lot more information on a lot of topics. So I would just encourage all of you. My website is janetkowalformayor.com. And I would appreciate your support come November 5th and your participation in this incredibly important election. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. Paul, you now have 1 minute for your closing statement.
Again, thank you for having us this morning. I appreciate you taking the time, and I appreciate you asking us questions that were thoughtful. And I always appreciate having time with my opponents because everybody has a enlightened perspective. I will also say this, any one of the 5 people on this Zoom right now are better than the leadership that we have in the city of Raleigh right now. We forethink everything in advance. We talk about issues that should have been talked about 10 years ago. I feel like our direction in the city of Raleigh, we are currently a ship without a rudder, and we need a rudder severely bad. I will also say that as a person who's owned a business and run businesses in the past, I think it's time we get out of the government mentality and start thinking about the business mentality. And as I told folks the other night, if you're not running it like a business, you have no business running it. So I would appreciate your vote. I'd appreciate your support. And again, thank you for having us this morning. Thank
you, Paul. Eugene, you now have 1 minute for your closing statement. Go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here with you today. I have some key principles. If you see on my signage behind me, we need leadership in the city. We need empathy. We need accountability, and you need diversity. Diversity isn't just and ethnicities. Diversity, we need to figure out how to ways to diversify this land. We need diverse ideas. So there's a lot that the city desires, a lot that the people of Raleigh desire. And many of us are tired of status quo. We cannot continue with the status quo. We need new ideas. You need fresh perspectives on the way to do things in the city. And it's going to take somebody that's been outside of government to take a look at these things. I would love to work with, once again, we have a great group of folks here, but I think the city is thirsty for something new. That's why there's so many candidates in the mayoral race. There's so many candidates in my neighborhood in the District C race, because people are looking for a change. They're looking for something different. And I hope you will vote for me. I'll tell folks to go to my website, myrickformayor.com.
Thank you, Eugene. Terrence, you now have 1 minute for your closing statement. Go ahead.
I want to thank you again for hosting this forum. To me, I ran last time, received 62,000 votes. Over 40% of Raleigh citizens voted for me in that last election. The issues that were critical then has almost just expanded and become more of a critical issue now. And one piece is housing. Housing and community engagements, two of your questions you asked today, were an issue over 2 years ago. And if anything, it had become more of a critical issue. We have overspent on reinstating the community engagement process, and we are looking at a tremendous deficit to secure residents. Residents don't feel as confident about their downtown. They don't feel as confident about the housing strategy. They don't feel as confident about their taxes. They're just looking for leadership that allows for them to engage, for them to be heard and seen, and to feel secure about the leadership for the future. And I believe that my campaign provides that. Truthforraleigh.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Terrence. James, you now have 1 minute for your closing statement. Go ahead.
I would like to thank you guys as well for inviting all of us out. I've enjoyed this race with all my other fellow candidates and getting to learn them and their ideas. And I'm appreciative to be amongst such great Raleigh residents. One thing I, want to make sure is that this is technically a nonpartisan race, but I'm the only one that's actually nonpartisan. I don't have any party affiliation, and I really want to put I don't want to put party over people. I want to put people over the party. I want to put people over politics and make sure that your needs are being addressed in the best way possible, and not have any, so-called political overlords breathing down your neck. I want to make sure that we have a really good collaboration with the local municipalities and the local General Assembly to make sure that we can get it done, that we can make it happen. I want to make sure that you have a solid communication between you and your city government. I'm the only candidate that has their phone number and email on their website, easily accessible to everybody, to make sure that you have the right and the ability to make sure that your needs are getting addressed.
Thank you, James. As we end our forum, we encourage you to visit our website, vote411.org, to learn more about the candidates on your ballot and to find out the latest information on polling place hours and locations. Please make your voting plan for the upcoming election and encourage your friends and family to vote as well. Thank you again for joining us.